Only 5 weeks after the museum was officially opened, a $10,000 budget deficit was discovered. State Cabinet refused to breach the blowout, and as the shop and kiosk were running at a loss, they were temporarily closed. Since then, the Council's internal auditor has been reviewing the museum's operations with a view to a management restructure.
I think that the museum started off with a great deal of enthusiasm, and I think that's apparent. I think what really isn't quite clear, I think, is the overall management plan of the museum, and I think that's really a crucial thing that should be addressed before all sorts of other things can be put into operation.
The report will also consider the role of Supernova. Federal member for Newcastle, Alan Morris, says one of the most appealing aspects of the complex has been given a low profile.
Yes, well, look, I've long expressed that calling it a museum could be misleading, particularly to tourists who may have seen 100 museums already and think it's just one more regional museum. Because it's not just one more regional museum, it's a very different museum. But I think it's important that there is a visible awareness that that museum down there isn't just a storage of our history, but it's also a living demonstration of science and technology. And it's very different to what people would expect to be in a museum. It's important that gets across, both from tourist point of view and also from our own community's understanding of it.
Attendance figures at the multi-million-dollar museum have slumped since the excitement of the opening. Only 55,000 people are now predicted to attend this year, almost a third of the anticipated crowds. The schedule of fees is doubtless a deterrent. The report is expected to be finished in the next few weeks. It will be assessed by Town Clerk Barry Lewis, considered by the Board of Trustees and then acted on by Council. It's hoped the outcome will ensure the city has a first-class facility and not a repository for empty space. Helen Hughes reporting for NBN News.
OKC Sting has already accounted for Newcastle 6-0, Central Coast 8-1 and the Hunter Region 5-1. The team of 12 players aged 15 to 18, plus coaches and a manager, are highly regarded in the United States. Last year, the OKC Sting travelled 7,200 kilometres around America, winning 77 out of a possible 89 matches. Yesterday, they played top Sydney side Cumberland Nepean, a team with some New South Wales players and an Australian pitcher, Melanie Rauch. And in an upset victory, the Sydney girls ran in 4 home runs to Sting 0. The American girls regained composure against North Shore, beating them 1-0, and a Lake Macquarie under-17 side 6-5. Assistant coach Carrie Heightley says the Oklahoma softballers are keen to play the stronger teams. Carrie is regarded as one of the top catchers in the United States, and with her 14 years of experience, is a great asset to the team.
I play for Texas A&M University, and I've been playing there. I'll be going into my senior year, my 4th year.
And what does that actually involve?
I'm on a full scholarship, and so I'm a full-time student, and I give in probably about 5 hours a day to softball.
The girls left for Sydney today and head to Brisbane next week. The OKC Sting will be back in Newcastle on the 24th of July for a softball display at the half-time break in the rugby league match between Manly and the Knights.
The Newcastle Falcons face the Cannons in Canberra tonight in the most critical game for both teams this season. It's a sudden death playoff for a semi-final spot in the National League. Falcons coach Cole is confident that Newcastle can upset the physical game of the Cannons.
This is with the first one.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
Council's Health Department is drawing up the proposal as a follow-up to the highly successful anti-pollution campaigns of the 50s. today was an appropriate time to consider the review. A stable low-pressure system over the city resulted in a temperature inversion, trapping industrial pollutants and air moisture in an unsightly haze. The new campaign would try to meet both the city's need to continue industrial development as well as improving quality of life for the community. The State Pollution Control Commission, council, community groups and industrial producers will all be invited to work together on the project. Council already has several monitoring stations set up around the city. It's believed these will be rationalised as part of the Clean Air campaign. Already there are plans to upgrade monitoring of air pollutants at Stockton due to the number of industrial developers looking to locate in neighbouring Kooragang. The Health Department spokesman said the target of the Clean Air 2000 campaign is to achieve even lower levels of air pollution than those recommended by the Pollution Control Commission.
After a varied life on the water, the vessel is now a sad sight in its aquatic grave. With a potential value of more than $100,000, the 50-foot twin-masted ketch has seen better days. Now, not even the police are interested in it. Those downhill days started when the vessel ran aground at Swansea last year. Water police approached, but the captain and crew leapt overboard, leaving the vessel in the hands of police and customs. Although they're unable to disclose details of their investigations, police say that it was towed to Carrington Marina after negotiations with the owner's family. Since then, those owners have failed to express any concern for the vessel, and it's slowly been taking in water. Now, any interested buyer would first have to salvage the ketch and raise it to the surface, an operation which could cost an extra $5,000.
Good afternoon, I'm Ross Hampton. The RAAF has dismissed suggestions that its new FA-18 fighter planes are structurally unsound after hairline cracks were found in the tails of several aircraft. The Air Force says the cracks do not put the planes at risk and are easily repaired.
For all the news, join us tonight at 6.
It's estimated that 70% of parents around Australia who don't have custody of their children don't pay maintenance regularly. The result for many children has been poverty. At the beginning of last month, the federal government introduced its new family support scheme, enabling maintenance to be automatically deducted from the non-custodial parents' pay. Social Security Minister Brian Howe spent today explaining the new system to a broad range of groups involved in the maintenance issue. These included the Law Society, Parents Without Partners and the Pensioners Advisory Service. He says the new system will ensure that the government is not left to pick up the tab for what should be a parent's responsibility.
The public generally, I think, overwhelmingly believe that parents do, irrespective of their relationship with each other, have a responsibility for their children, and the scheme is seen as enforcing and making possible that responsibility being exercised.
Mr Howe admits that only a narrow group of people is eligible, but says the system is likely to be broadened once it gets up and running.
Because there's so many, it's just a big administrative task to get the scheme underway, and so we're giving priority to new separations and to sole parents.
Two weeks without a game really told on the Newcastle side. They found it hard to combine as a team and were guilty of many silly errors. They held Blacktown out until the 38th minute, when Ralph Meyer headed in the game's only goal. Just before the break, Blacktown's Jason Van Blurk was sent from the field for striking David Bowen. Then, just a minute into the second half, Bowen was given his marching orders after receiving his second yellow card. With both sides down to 10 men, Newcastle didn't get its attack together until the last 10 minutes, when they went close to tying up the game several times. The locals now have a week to improve. They play Blacktown again next Sunday in Sydney.
With more than 900 AIDS cases already identified in Australia, the country is emerging as one of the worst affected by the killer virus. Consequently, research and education programs in Australia are also at the forefront of world development, expertise which may help less affected nations combat the disease. Amongst the leaders in Australia is the AIDS unit at the Royal Newcastle Hospital. It was chosen as one of 6 Australian locations to host schools for physicians from Asian nations who are still discovering the extent of AIDS in their own countries. 25 physicians are attending the course, which includes updates on AIDS research and work with R&H unit doctors. Amongst the speakers at the seminar, Professor Robert Norton, a Fulbright scholar who has studied AIDS from its first appearance in the US. He says with a vaccine still at least 10 years off, prevention is vital.
Only one answer right now, not to be infected, and the message that we have to get across is basically an educational message, a message of prevention. That is the single biggest hope right now.
Before yesterday, the blonde-haired bub wearing number 34 had only played in the President's Cup. With so many of the Knights forward pack on the injury list, the big trainee engineer was told Saturday morning he'd be in the firsts playing opposite Steve Roach.
Oh, I thought it was a joke. I didn't believe him. Pretty shocked. But I thought, oh, well, I'll just have to give it a go. Get the chance to make the most of it.
Do you think you made the most of your chance?
Oh, I think so. I think I did what the coach asked me to do.
And so, what did he ask you to do?
Oh, he just said to play well in the scrums, get on top of the other front row and tackle.
But your opposite number was Australian representative Steve Roach. That's a tall order.
Oh, that's what I thought at the time. But I don't know, he's got 2 legs and he's a human bloke, so...
Bub played the first 65 minutes of the game, pulling in 24 tackles. Affectionately known as Zola, he was converted from rugby union at the end of last season, having played for the Waratahs as well as the state schoolboys.
For the entire 65 minutes you're on the field, you never got the ball once, never got to run with the ball. Why was that?
Correct, not to take hold of the ball, and it's absolutely necessary because I didn't know any of the plays. I hadn't trained with the team.
Bub signed up on a 1-year contract with a 1-year option. He finishes in the under-21 grade this season, with the Knights certain to take out the option to keep the young champion at home.
For many, the proposed Civic development revolves around its most noticeable feature, the 34-storey office tower on the corner of Derby and King Streets. The artist's impression of the pinnacle provoked petitions, public meetings and heated debate. However, to no avail. Late last month, the council gave the tower and the development a thumbs up, providing it complies with several modifications. These include the provision of a public viewing area near the top of the office block, at least 1,126 off-street car parking spaces, and the
new design would feature a tiering effect, similar to those demonstrated in these pictures from a book on America.
One of those responsible for the original design.
Is correct. We feel that the straight up and down tower is the appropriate architectural and design solution for it. However, we are looking at the moment a stepped solution along the lines that Council has sought.
John Richardson is an architect in the firm which was paid $10,000 to prepare 3 options for the Council's redevelopment proposal. Taking into account the floor space to ground area ratio demanded by the developer, Mr Richardson says the 34-storey corner tower was the best of the options. He says the firm knew there would be opposition to the proposal, but had also taken that into consideration.
We reached our conclusions, assessing the shade and shadow implications of it, assessing the existing council guidelines, assessing its location on the site, assessing the wind effects, and we are convinced that it's the appropriate sort of solution for the site.
Work on the multi-million-dollar development is expected to begin towards the middle of next year.
Last week it was American soccer and softball teams in town. Today it's an indoor soccer team. The boys are members of the regional representative team from the city of Westport in Connecticut on the US East Coast. Aged up to 17 years, the Americans are no stranger to the game, playing regular school and club competitions and training every day. Early this evening they played local side Netbusters, Merriweather High, the regional champions, as well as a mixed game with the Francis Greenway High girls. Tomorrow at 11:20 they take to a full-size soccer field and they play Merriweather High's first 11 at Merriweather High. After the game it's off to Sydney, then to Brisbane to give a display at Expo.
It'll stop at Morrissey. This bus here will stop.
The university has been working on the study of exercise for some time now. Tests can be made on oxygen performance, cardiac output, endurance performance, and other aspects of fitness testing. Professor of Human Physiology at the university and Chairman of the Hunter Academy of Sport, Professor Saxon White, says the Academy has no immediate bricks and mortar ambitions, as occurred with the Australian Institute of Sport. He says the Academy hopes to draw on existing research and education facilities in the area, and the university is only one of many.
The laboratory and its projects, in a sense, have been offered to the Hunter Academy as one of the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle of resources that could come together very usefully for the benefit of the Hunter public.
The university is now working on how exercise affects ballerinas, and Professor White says that if funding is available, they have the capability to work with all types of athletes.
Yes, there may be a need for specific instrumentation. There is a lot of general information here, which is very helpful to most athletes. But then when you come down to specific kinds of athletes, we would have to then get in specific instruments. And that might require a certain amount of finance, and we'd have to go outside the academy and find that.
Great.
The meeting was called by the Institute of Cultural Affairs, the Council's consultants. It followed on from a two-day seminar held last year in which it was decided to produce a business plan to help revitalise the city centre. The meeting last night of traders, property owners and others was asked to make submissions to Council on the proposed plan. Details of that plan are now on display at the Council until the end of this month, when submissions will close. According to the Lord Mayor, those submissions will then go before Council. Alderman Norton said it was an exceptionally good meeting, and although there were some criticisms levelled, he said those present admitted that at least the Council was doing something. The business plan for the CBD is regarded as the most important of the 6 priorities allocated by the Institute in their report for Council.
The plan comes into effect from the new school year. Although no permanent teachers will lose their jobs, the rationalisation plan may mean the transfer of teachers. The net result in the Hunter will be a loss of 2.6 teachers per school. Class sizes will increase to a maximum of 30 in junior schools, 25 in senior schools. The state government wants to change the composition of its education spending away from teachers to items such as computers, school maintenance, security alarms and special education.
We've lost over 2,000 teachers in New South Wales. The consequences of that loss and the thinking behind it, which is based on the assumption that schools in New South Wales are overstaffed, is going to have serious long-term consequences for education in New South Wales. And we are just horrified that a minister who proclaimed before the election how keen he was to lift the public school system has presided over a cut of this dimension.
The Regional Director of Education, Alan Beard, was at great pains to ensure that quality of education and choice of subjects would not suffer under the new plan.
So if you like, it's making the organisation leaner and tighter, but it's not reducing the options for children, and that's the important thing.
What effect on the quality of education, though, will it have, apart from the options of courses?
Well, I believe that the quality of education will not be reduced.
Alternative strategy.
Teachers Federation members met at Newcastle Workers Club today.
Putting talent, if we're going to put them together, putting them together, like say Western Australian model
Teachers also plan to oppose the introduction of a selective group of pupils at Merewether High. 120 students considered intellectually gifted will enrol next school year. However, opposition to selective schools is not universal, with many Federation members actually in favour.
Earlier this year, CSIRO officers visited the Hunter looking for partners in the clean coal process, which refines coal to the point that it burns almost as cleanly as oil. By passing raw coal through a refinery where it's treated with superheated alkalis and then acid, ash content is reduced to just 1% compared to a normal 20%. Its promoters say the process could even add value to coal waste that's currently discarded. The pilot plant at Newland is expected to be operating by Christmas.